Captain Charlie. My friends call me the Berserk. I just want to live as my ancestors, the Vikings. A simple way of life, and where you wake up in the morning and feel alive. When I was a young lad, 19 years of age, I got myself a sailboat and sailed alone around the world. That was 12 years ago. I have a lot of experience with Arctic exploration.
Sailing in Antarctica! Watch out for the growler!
Yeah, I see it! She's passing by.
Whoa! Ah!
More or less. 2007, I did the Northwest Passage. It ended a little bit rock and roll.
Sailing vessel Berserk, please state your intentions. Over.
And now they got guns, and he's coming this way.
We were all arrested and deported out of Canada before we finally made it to Nome, Alaska. United States of America, land of freedom and liberty. I hope you wish the Berserk welcome better than Canada. People who are sailing on board the Berserk I call the Wild Vikings. We, the Wild Vikings, we are rock and rollers, we are people who search adventures. People call us crazy, but we are not stupid.
Get that fucking shit out of the boat! Let's go!
It's a lot of ice. Lot of ice. The biggest challenge for all Arctic exploration is finding a good crew and the right ship to go through some of the most treacherous waters in the world.
The situation is not good.
Welcome on board the Berserk. Inside here, it's not actually a luxury cruise, it's a pretty simple boat. No hot tub, no showers, no toilets. We pretty much go back to nature and do it as people have done it for hundreds of years.
The Antarctic terrorist Jarl Andahoy. Tromsø, Oslo, Norway. The Dagbladet. Polar explorer and television celebrity Jarl Andahoy, 38, sits in the dock, the Nord-Troms District Court. Accused of having carried out his third voyage south of the 60th parallel in Antarctica without permission from the Norwegian authorities. He is also accused of having sailed without insurance, so the provisions of the Antarctic Treaty requires. The expedition took place a year ago, where, among others, comedian Anne-Kat Herland, 43, and rock guitarist Peter Barley, 50, was on the journey. The voyage constitutes television program Berserk in Pioneer Waters, which premieres on TV Norge, or Norg, tonight. There's an advanced sentence Andahoy believes the charges against him are baseless. He points out that the sailboat is registered in Russia and claims to have acquired permission from the Argentine authorities before the expedition started. He never sought permission in Norway because he believes an application by him will never be merited by the Norwegian authorities. He felt prejudged by the Polar Institute of Foreign Affairs. Ever since 2011, I have been treated as terrorist in Antarctica by the Foreign Ministry and the Norwegian Polar Institute. They've stolen equipment, withheld information, and tried to stop my expeditions, says Andahoy. He believes everything started 5 years ago when he went on an expedition aboard Antarctic yacht Berserk with a crew of 4. The aim was to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Roald Amundsen's trip to the South Pole. The expedition ended dramatically when the sailboat disappeared during a storm in the Ross Sea. Andahoy was even on land along with 18-year-old Samuel Massey at the time. Comrades Robert PCP, who is 34, Tom Bellica, 36, and South African Leonard J. Banks, 32, were never found. Powerful accusations. Andahoy was fined 25,000 kroners after the expedition. He endorsed this writ. In 2012, he returned to Antarctica to find out what had happened to his friends. Again, Andahoy was fined for having traveled to Antarctica without licenses and insurance. Foreign Affairs and the Norwegian Polar Institute have opposed and tried to stop me. They still do. The entire input on this matter was that I had permission to sail, something I had said, Andahoy said, adding, "It will be exciting to see where they are now. This is a tragedy for me and other relatives who have lost shipmates and sons in Antarctica. The essential question is if there was an accident that was just swept under the carpet." Unreasonable. Foreign Ministry rejects accusations of the Arctic explorer. Andahoy's claims fall on absurdity. Beyond this, we do not want from the ministry's side to comment on an ongoing trial, says Dagbladet, the newspaper. The head of section at the Norwegian Polar Institute, Birgit Njastad, testified in a criminal case against Andahoy. She says she told Dagbladet that she did not want to comment beyond what was said in court. Written in Spanish. The documents showing Andahoy alleged authorization of Argentine authorities for permission to conduct the voyage was sent over to the prosecutor late Tuesday night. The papers were written in Spanish. They were assessed whether grounds for the examination. The reason is Andahoy complained that the dismissal was a violation of protection zone determination. The Berserk believed they died unnecessarily and would like to shed further light on the circumstances of the accident. He believes, therefore, that these matters have not been resolved. Andahoy got a text from the crew that read, "Everything is good, atmosphere is good in Horseshoe Bay. Contact us." And the Wellington notified the Berserk about their storm expected soon. Expedition participant Manuel Hernandez has gone through these documents today. Prosecutors reject Andahoy's written permission. It is not issued by authorities who handle Antarctica regulations, say prosecutors Trude Vonley in this procedure. Risking jail time. Anne Kat Hjerland was summoned as a witness in Nord-Trom's district court Wednesday. "I know that it was working to try to get a permit. I know that there was no Norwegian license, but I also know that Jarl would not have received any permit in Norway if he asked for it," says Hjerland. The prosecutor asked today about the 30-day suspended sentence and fined 45,000 kroners for Jarl Andahoy. "I do not wonder if I will be convicted. I am going to appeal all the way. I do not give up," says Andahoy. The verdict will be pronounced in about a week. So they're calling him a terrorist for going to the Antarctic. Jarl Andahoy was eventually acquitted. I think that this is only the correct one. I guess he's saying, this is the only correct inset. The day before the Berserk disappeared, Andahoy got a text message from the crew which read, "There is a good atmosphere and all is well. We leave Horseshoe Bay. Contact us when you can." Want answers. Jarl Andahoy wants to know what exactly happened before the Berserk wrecked. Unanswered questions. The New Zealand naval vessel MS Wellington had notified Berserk about the storm that was expected soon. To date, it has emerged as a mystery for Andahoy that boat chose to leave a safer anchorage point in the announced storm, and he wanted to know what happened prior to this. Now Andahoy wants answers.
His lifelong hero was Ernest Shackleton, and it was his journey across the Antarctic that Henry Worsley was trying to recreate, with a huge added challenge that Worsley was entirely alone. Like Shackleton, his bravery and his willingness to endure endless uncharted terrain led him into a desperate race for survival that ended in his death. The British explorer died of organ failure tragically when the end of the mission was almost in sight. Just 30 miles remained of his 1,000 or so mile journey. Prince William has led the tributes to the former SAS officer who died raising money for wounded soldiers. Stephen Smith has our report.
Good evening. So, underway at last. Thunderbirds are go. It's -7 Celsius only and no wind. It's just the best place on earth right now.
All alone in Antarctica, Henry Worsley kept an audio diary of his extraordinary trek.
So in sum, it's been a taxing but enjoyable day just to witness this very special place all to myself.
He hoped to achieve what his great hero, Sir Ernest Shackleton, had failed to do a century earlier, and cross this great white wilderness. On earlier accompanied adventures, Worsley settled down for the long evenings with Shackleton's writing.
We read the heart of the Antarctic every night and pick out bits of his diary that are absolutely spot on to where we've got to on the journey. Really great, very sort of meaningful really. It brings it all to life, particularly the description of the views he can see and trouble he's having with his ponies and even the weather. He had slightly worse weather than we're having.
Shackleton's one of the great romantic figures of British exploration. His epic mission failed after his ship was crushed by ice, but he kept his men alive. They all came home again. He's remembered in an exhibition at the Royal Geographical Society in London.
I think it's got a lot to do with the psyche of the British public in terms of the storytelling that goes with all of these expeditions, because they're kind of handed down to us through generations. There is always a willingness for somebody to give up something for others. Those were the equivalents of NASA sending men into space. You know, they had a sense of where they were going, they had all of the equipment that they could carry, all of the skills that they could have individually, but ultimately it was the men in the wilderness environment.
Today I reminded myself that as I soon head north, just how much I will heavily rely on willpower to see me through the challenges ahead.
On his earlier journey in the South Pole, Henry Worsley reached a spot where Shackleton decided he couldn't go on.
The decision to turn back must be one of the greatest decisions taken in the whole annals of exploration. particularly polar exploration. He came so close. He pioneered this route, 850 odd miles. You know, every day he was seeing new sights. 97 miles to go, and he turns around.
And my hero, Uyanış Shackleton, did 97 miles from the South Pole on the morning of January the 9th, 1909. He said he'd shot his bolt. Well, today, I have to inform you there's some sadness that I too have shot my bolt. My journey is at an end. I have run out of time, physical endurance, and the simple, sheer inability to slide one ski in front of the other to cover the distance required to reach my goal.
Henry Worsley in his own words there, and we're joined now by the record-breaking polar explorer Caroline Hamilton, and from our Birmingham studio, professional explorer Mark Wood, who is a friend of Henry Worsley and has completed over 30 major expeditions around the world, including a solo expedition to the South Pole. Thank you both very much for coming in. And Mark, I know you were good friends with Henry, and we really got a sense in that film of the man at the heart of this tragedy. How did you see him?
Well, I met Henry when I arrived actually at the South Pole in 2012 after my solo attempt there, and I found it extraordinarily difficult to reach the pole itself. And when I first met Henry, he was full of smiles and fun and laughter. And then I found out, like 5 minutes later, that he just completed an 80-day plus expedition himself. So an extraordinary, strong-willed, powerful man with a deep sense of humour.
Do you understand that need for solo exploration? That seemed to be sort of quintessential to this whole expedition, that drive to do it alone.
Yeah, I mean, exploring is either about what you walk through, what you see, or what you feel internally. And to do a solo expedition is a different step altogether. You can't train for it, you just have to be thrown into the deep end. And I can really understand why Henry wanted to take up this expedition historically, but also for personal reasons, and that's why we explore to begin with. It all becomes personal to start off with.
Caroline, how do you explain to somebody who isn't an explorer just why you would take your life in your hands like this to achieve something like that?
I think it's about challenging yourself. It's there, it's a wonderful thing to do. As Mark's been saying, when you're out there, you've got kind of an inner journey going on at the same time as the outer journey. And Antarctica and the Arctic, but Antarctica in particular, is incredibly beautiful. And it's such a privilege to be there. You know, the whole thing, it's an assault on your every sense. It's not just what it looks like, it's what it smells like, what it sounds like. And to be able to spend 60, 70, 80 days, however long it is that you're out there, it's a huge privilege to be in just a wonderful part of the planet.
And you're talking about what conditions of -40 or lower. What does the cold, what does that actually do to you mentally and to your actions?
It affects everything. I remember days, many days, sort of evenings in the tent, where you're melting snow to make water to drink and to make your food with. And as you melt the water, of course, you get steam coming up from the water. You've got condensation from your own breath. And I remember days sitting in the tent where the whole place, we were in this kind of fog, and none of us could think of anything to say to each other, except how cold we were. We couldn't see each other. We couldn't think of anything to say. Well, we couldn't think of anything to say except how cold we were at that point.
And Mark, when you heard in the film Henry describing that moment for Shackleton, the agony of turning back, does that tell you something perhaps about why he himself left it so late?
It's difficult to say, but I think if you're traveling as a team, then when you get medical conditions, then you got other people to add their judgment to it. And I think if it was a team approach, then the expedition would have stopped a little bit earlier. But because Henry's got this tremendous drive of determination in him, any injuries that come up, then you think you can actually get through it. I can't really speak for the situation, obviously, but I presume that it was just sheer determination that he thought he could get past it and reach the final goal.
And do you think that ultimately that was where it went wrong, that you lose, if you like, your sense of judgment of how bad things have got?
Yeah, it's difficult for me to say, but I would say that you haven't got anything to measure it against apart from yourself. So I think he pushed it as far as he could. Then literally his body said, "No, I can't do this anymore." The problem with great explorers like Henry is that he has this real dogged British determination to just go that little bit further, and it might have been the ultimate sort of decision, really.
And Caroline, when you think how connected we all are all the time, in a way that's what makes a journey like this so extraordinary, the idea that you don't see humankind, you don't have any contact for all that. Do you think that is what makes it more attractive
I
now?
think that is part of the joy of it. You're out there in this wonderful environment, you're entirely self-sufficient. Clearly, if you're a team, I entirely agree, you've got people around you who you can share problems with and who can help with decision making. But even if you're a small group, you're entirely self-sufficient in this amazing wilderness. And that is part of the appeal, yes.
Caroline Hamilton and Mark Wood, thank you both very much indeed. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
When I was 7 years old, my dad went on a very big adventure. He went to a land where the cold burns deep under your skin. But something happened in the snow and the ice. And when he came back, he was never the same again. His mind was a blizzard, and his heart was frozen. In the 70s, my dad was a Scottish climber with a young family and a hunger to see the world. So we got pretty good at fitting our stuff inside a backpack. Then he scored his dream job, Operation Deep Freeze, working as a survival instructor in Antarctica. He came back just 2 months later. He was agitated and paranoid. He said the CIA were tailing him, and the phones were tapped. He told us that when he was in Antarctica, he'd been out exploring on a snowcat and had mistakenly entered a restricted area, and he'd found a secret nuclear dump. So they had to give him a chemical lobotomy to shut him up. He was lost to our family forever.
We went down to the airport and Jimmy walked off the plane. Everybody just went, instantly apparent that the person that went down to Antarctica was not the person that got off that plane.
When governments are involved and Antarctica's involved, it's a secluded place, so I'm sure stuff can be going on there.
I didn't really see my dad at all over the next 27 years. Hello? Dad? But I know that he never climbed a mountain or worked another day in his life. Jimmy!
I know Jamie for about 25 years, but I can't say that I know him because he doesn't speak, he doesn't say anything about himself.
He's given me a couple of books to read that he obviously picked up and found interesting, so I've read it, and then we sort of exchange what we think of the book there, and then a normal common, how you going, Jimmy, questions, that kind of stuff, and see what he's doing, what I'm doing.
I thought you might be outside this cafe up here. Well, there's a couple of dudes, but not my dad.
Good morning, man.
Hi, I'm looking for a guy called Jimmy. Have you?
Jimmy?
Yeah. Have you seen him? Oh, was he?
Just a little while
Right,
ago.
okay. Do you know which way he went?
He would go back to Triple C.
Triple C? Is that where he hangs out?
He sort of does.
Yeah.
He always walks. He'll walk that way.
Right.
Then he'll check the cafes. Occasionally he'll
Yeah.
go to the pub, that's where that lady is down
Okay.
there. And just sort of walk up.
Oh, that way. All right. Thanks for your help.
Well, years after I met him, I went on to university in Edinburgh, where far more intelligent, far better read, and far more cultured than most of the students I met at Edinburgh University.
Jimmy was a really had a mischievous sense of humour and a cheeky grin, I suppose, you know, and it was quite, you know, infectious. Obviously, the girls liked it, you know, and...
They just totally loved each other. I know they did. Deep down, they were meant to be together. You know, I always think couples who are meant to be together end up looking like each other. They looked like each other from the outset.
And we got married in September 1969 in Glasgow.
How you going?
I'm okay.
Yeah, it's good to see you. What do you fancy doing?
Don't know, I was just going to go down to the pub now, sort of.
Right, is it that time?
Well, it's sort of 9:30, sort of. 9:33.
Right, are you feeling well?
Yeah, I've seen worse, man. I've seen
Yeah.
worse. Yeah, I've seen much worse than this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went to your place and left just a box of, you know, I bought some flowers and some fruit and just a few different things for you. I left it at your house. I think the loss of a father is something that you carry so deep inside your body. It's like deep down in your guts, and it's with you wherever you go.
Every now and then, probably after a fair bit of red wine, I get on the net and go to the Operation Deep Freeze site, and all the doors are closed, so there's nothing there. I got onto a website which was the New Zealand Veterans Association and emailed a guy there, and he said that they only dealt with military personnel and he was a civilian. So there was closed doors there as well.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Whatever me.
Yeah.
Her. No idea, me.
No ideas? What about that one? You must know who they are.
Don't know.
You don't remember? Do you know who it is?
Don't know.
That one? Don't remember them.
I mean, what happened, right?
But what did happen?
Don't know me.
Is there anything that you remember? Like, can you describe the landscape of it, what it was like there?
Alpine, sort of. Yeah.
Well, how do you feel when you went to Antarctica?
I feel none, me. Yeah. That's it. Grateful Dead, me. Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I mean, there's not too much difference between Antarctica and, like, say, Alaska, Ural, sort of, Alps, sort of, right? I reckon that there's a possibility that in South America there's only Terra del Fuego, me. The entire place is fucked with fucking, Mardi Gras and like TV celebrations.
So what do you guys think happened to Jimmy? What are the stories that you've heard?
See, Jimmy could have been,
could have discovered something that he wasn't supposed to see, and they got, they picked him up and they brainwashed him.
Jimmy got an excellent job with the New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation as a mast and aerial technician. And he started to meet people then who went to Antarctica with New Zealand. He found out it was possible to go on a 6-month summer relief crew. Jimmy's speciality was snow and ice climbing. He was incredible at that. So for him to be able to go to something where he could climb, where he could have something to do with snow and ice, was amazing, and where he could only be away for 6 months. Oh, I thought it was wonderful.
He was probably the best instructor out of the three of us. He seemed to know.
He wrote all the time, and his letters to begin with were absolutely wonderful things about describing the place, describing what they were doing.
I spent a lot of time looking at the map of Antarctica, and I remember the day that I found that a really big part of the continent was called Graham Land. and because that was our surname, I boasted to all the kids that, you know, that Dad was doing such an incredible job in Antarctica that they'd named half of the continent after him.
Yes, the difference between the man who went and the man who came back, they could be two different men.
No, something bad happened to him there.
We just couldn't fathom what had gone wrong. We just were really puzzled.
But you know the story when you came back that you told Mum was that they'd done something to you down there because you'd found some, you know, something that you shouldn't have?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's America, sort of, you know.
But what's that story?
But I don't hold any great grudges, sort of, you know, to anybody, sort of, me. I'm just sort of a bit disappointed at the financial institution, sort of, me, you know. I don't care. But whatever, sort of. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sort of, yeah. I reckon dogs have got Chinese hats. Shut up. And I reckon cats got Chinese hats. That's what I reckon, me. That's what I reckon.
This is really sweet, creamy tea.
Ah, no. Yeah. I don't. I'm gonna give you a book, me. That's it.
Ah, okay. The war is ceaseless. The most we can hope for are occasional moments of tranquility in the midst of the conflict. Oh, it's pretty beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, take it in. Fine.
Welcome to the Public Affairs Office of the Central Intelligence Agency. Our menu options have changed, so please listen carefully. If you wish to speak to a public affairs officer, press 1. If you were calling regarding employment...
I ring the CIA. I talk to half a dozen officials. They all deny the CIA was ever in Antarctica. They don't let me record the calls. I put in a number of Freedom of Information requests to them. 30 years has passed and I'm entitled to all their records from 1978. I get nothing. I find nothing. The only real evidence I've found so far is an American news program from the same year he was medevaced.
A decision was made at the highest levels of the CIA to do testing on unwitting Americans. A former CIA official who worked on these programs describes for the first time how the decision was made. He did not wish to be filmed or recorded. Thus his remarks are read by someone else.
I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line. Every decent kid knows he shouldn't steal, but he does it sometimes. We knew damn well we didn't want anyone else to know what we were doing.
From a previously classified deposition of Dr. James Cattell, who administered the mescaline derivative, on the purpose of the drug testing, to produce symptoms similar to those that you see in schizophrenia.
had a nuclear power plant in McMurdo, and as far as I knew, it was operating, you know, smashingly. It was successful. But it turned out it was leaking radioactive contaminated byproducts into the soil.
I don't believe that, you know, that the CIA was involved in something like that. But no, I don't think the. Then again, you never know where the CIA is.
I can't stand fucking whales, I can't stand them. I can't stand fucking whales. Okay. I reckon whales got something to do with computers. I reckon whales got something to do with nanos, iPods, Xboxes, right? Well, whales have got fucking friends, man, and whales have got, like, they got fucking whatever sort of, like, you know, I think the whales got me. Sort of.
On the 11th of January, Jimmy woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning to tell me that they were putting chlorine in the water system and they were going to try and poison us all.
Well, his letters started to sound strange, sort of paranoid. And they weren't the usual Jimmy, cheeky, jokey letters. There was a sort of underlying sense of fear in them. I think experiments were going down there, and whether or not Jimmy was part of that experiment because they wanted to shut him up, I think is highly possible. We've heard about torture and stuff like that since then. I, as a mother with 2 young children, was not going to take on the CIA or the United States, you know, Air Force, Army and Navy. Like, I wasn't going to do it.
When Dad started to lose it, he thought aliens were after us. So he hid me and my little brother in the forest for 2 days. Then he kidnapped me and took me back to Scotland. Which must have been terrifying for Mum, because I just wasn't on the school bus one day.
I managed to get some money together and get the first flight over to Scotland, but it would have taken about, say, 4 or 5 weeks. It wasn't just instant. Back to the house, and Jimmy was sitting there, and he was crunching up beer cans, and he was chucking them at the Sean and going, well, who are you anyway? Who are you? Where are you from? What is the universe all about? Who are you? What are you doing? And Shawnee was just sitting in this corner going, well, I'm Shawnee and you're my dad and all this. A wee boy of 5.
Then Dad decided that Sean wasn't his son. He never acknowledged him again.
I keep thinking that my life will begin, you know. Next week it's going to be great. Next year it's going to be perfect. But there has always been a block and a point that I can't get past. I've had a lot of depression, I think, where I think I just pushed too hard with drugs. I took a lot of acid. From, you know, maybe from 16, 17. I think everyone struggles with it, really. I think it's in the back of everyone's mind that you can go mad and you can never come back.
It's very, very quiet in Antarctica. Normally it's just like, shh, you hear nothing. One day I walked up the hill, up to the top of this hill, away from everything. And I just sat there. And I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear anything. And then the only thing I could hear was my own heart beating. It got louder and louder and louder, and to the point where it frightened me. It was just, and so I had to get up and go. I had to get up and walk back to base, where I could hear people and sounds and machines and men. I don't know what happened to your father, but I mean, he could have had an epiphany, an experience that, you know, caused him to I don't know, you know.
The voices sound really stupid to me. I don't know, you've got like Archbishop sort of, right? TV, right? Or pornography, right? Or angels, devils, you know, whatever sort of, you know, it's stupid. You know, fucking crazy.
My understanding was that the issue that had started to bring it to a head was that a woman had contacted your mother who had been having an affair with Jimmy.
He got a letter for sure, which just blew him out of the water. He was shocked. He was, I'd say from the moment he opened it up, from then on he was in a shell-shock state. His wife had found out that he had an affair and that the girl he had an affair with was pregnant. And he was just saying things like, God, I just screwed things up so bad, you know, I've completely stuffed up. It was just a gigantic shock for him. And I think from that point on, he was really quite different. He isolated himself in the chalet, put blankets up on the windows to make the whole place pretty dark. And photographs of your family be pasted around the place. And he'd cut himself out, just this silhouette. His whole focus of thinking was totally different from what everyone was talking about. And it seemed to be shifted. He'd start talking about something that wasn't really part of the conversation at all. It was like he'd just been shaken, you know, and his mind hadn't got quite back on track. Yeah, it's something that, you know, burnt a hole in his soul, and as he kept it all through all the way, or what? That'd be interesting to know.
John Preslin, the Scott-based leader, asked me to come in and have a chat one day, and he was worried about Jimmy. You know, a lot of people saying he was going mad. A lot of people did say that around the bay. Oh, Jimmy's off his rocker, you know.
I don't remember at all how he was put on the plane, you know, the whole circumstance. I don't know with Scott-based personnel, with American personnel, or just don't know.
At that moment, hearing that story, which was so different from, you know, the epic fairy tale that I'd grown up with, I had no idea about there being a letter and a pregnancy and another woman. Yeah, it was just, it was a mixture of going, oh fuck, it's a total soap opera, and actually being glad that somebody was telling me something that might be true. Tell Mum about the letter. I mean, did he talk about Shona when he came out? Did he talk about...
Juliet, you've asked me this 100 times.
But what could it have been then if it wasn't that?
Juliet, if you believe that was it, I'm going to stand up now and I'm going to get off this bed and go and forget about it. I don't want to know about it, because if that's all it was, it's not a story.
Well, it is. I mean, it might not be the best story, but it kind of...
Well, for me, for God's sake, you know, I brought up 2 children on my own because Jimmy felt a bit guilty. And then I went back to the woman, and then because she didn't want him, so he came over and you know, had a bit of a go with me, and said stay with me for 2 years.
Right.
Okay, fine. And I'm just about to walk out of here because I'm sick to bloody death with Shona. Why you keep doing it, I don't know. He's obsessed with her.
I'm not.
And you're turning this nice little thing into get back to where we were this morning, and I'm not doing it, Juliet. And you'll be lucky if I'll talk to you bloody well again about this film. I mean, what are you trying to rub my nose in dirt all the time?
But it's not your dirt.
Oh, God. I told you that this morning. You keep going back there. I don't know the answer.
I'm just trying to probe this story to find the answer.
Yeah, well, why are you asking me when I don't know? I don't know.
Okay. And, I mean, were you corresponding? Were you writing letters to him on the ice?
No.
Because I'm just a little bit confused, because Mum thought, I mean, she'd said she got so angry with Jimmy, and I'm wondering if this has got to do with his breakdown, because he was having an affair with you and she found out about it.
No. I certainly... It's, yeah, I don't know where some of that came from. It's just very strange. The last night he was in New Zealand, I spent time with him, and I may have held him at that stage because he was very, very shaky, and maybe he thought that there was something sexual in that, I don't know. But no, definitely didn't get pregnant to Jimmy, and definitely didn't. I don't remember writing to him on the ice, but I suppose I could have. I don't know. I mean, if I had, it would have just been, "Hi, how are things?" kind of letter, because no, there was definitely nothing. No.
I mean, I was really sure that she was lying. But I think because I ended up being like this really tabloid journalist towards the end, like just talking about, sleeping with people, and I mean, I think I just realised how, it was all irrelevant. That wasn't the thing. I was never going to find out the thing. I mean, how can you find out the thing that drives somebody mad?
It's impossible to determine what the truth is here, right? We're fucking wheat fields in a wind, mate. Cosmic wind, mate. It's just a journey, Sorrow, right? Yeah.